Hi guys, it's been probably like a month since I got on here and talked to you guys. Yes, I am in my Cowboys blanket. Yes, I'm freezing. I had a workout and I took a cold shower afterwards and I am through. But anyway, I wanted to get on here and talk to you guys. I wanted to give my thoughts on what I thought about rookie minicamp and OTAs and the things I'm looking for going into camp. There's a lot of discussions being had right now regarding the weaknesses and the strength of this team and what we should be looking for. And of course, I gotta give my 2 cents. So here we are. So when discussing the strengths and weaknesses of this team, I look at football as a machine, and every part makes everything else work. So when I'm looking at what the weaknesses of this team are, to me, I think the biggest weakness of this team, and it's just clear as day, is the offensive line. I feel like once Denver cracked the code, or whatever the case may be, it was partially because of just our inability to not run the ball. I'm not particularly sure, especially looking at that game as many times as I've looked at that game. They came in there with the plan. They knew our plays before we did them. And the lack of run blocking ability, I think the pass blocking was a little bit better, but the lack of run blocking ability really penalized this team. And not only that, it made it so much easier for teams to key in on what we were trying to do from a passing standpoint. And you can't ask your quarterback to make something happen. Granted, I think there are some who can still do it, and I think that Dak has the ability to do it. And there were times that he did show that he still could do it. However, it is a lot to ask of your quarterback to make passes when they're not there. Like, I understand that Dak Prescott definitely has a more of a cautious way of playing football. He's not one of the guys that's just going to be letting it fly and not be afraid of the possible turnover. However, I feel like given the fact that he was coming back from the type of injury that he came back from, and to really just expect for him to make something happen despite how poor the offensive line play was is irrational and it's unfair, and I'm not about to do that here. That being said, I think that most of your issues on the offensive line came from the left side. Left tackle, obviously Tyron going down, and even when he was out there, he didn't look great to me, in my opinion. And then Connor Williams, we already know the issues he had with penalties and hand technique and things like that. And then you keep going down the line and you get to Tyler Biadasz, who was just in his second year. We gotta be fair, give this man some time to develop. Also, really understand that the offensive line is a unit, right? So if one guy is weak, typically there's compensation for the fact that the other guy was weak. There was a point in time last season, if I'm not mistaken, that a team rushed 3 and got to the quarterback. So don't tell me there wasn't an offensive line problem. However, some of the things we've heard have been a little promising to me, especially with Tyler Smith. So yeah, we have heard some. I personally, through all the articles, the videos, certain beat writers I trust, stuff like that, I've heard some very good things about Tyler Smith. And one thing that I look for when we're talking about OTAs and all that stuff is consistency. Whose name am I hearing consistently? Who's standing out consistently? Who am I reading about consistently? And one constant of OTAs and minicamp is that Tyler Smith looked improved. He looked healthy. He looked ready. And I don't take that for granted with what we're trying to do with this offensive line and reestablishing a lot of the physicality and the mauling and the we're going to run the ball down your throat to exhaust you. And to open up the rest of the offense. Like, I understand what they're trying to do, and I think that Tyler is a good piece of trying to do that. Also, to listening to Tyler Biadasz, listen to his interview, it sounds like he's focused, and it sounds like these guys really are valuing the time that they are getting together, and being in the building and being able to be around each other, as opposed to these last couple years with COVID. It seems like that matters to them, especially when you start talking about a Tyler Biadasz that needs a little bit more coaching, Tyler Smith who needs a little bit more coaching. We still need Connor McGovern to come in and actually have the ability to get to the second level. Yeah, all of that stuff. I feel like this time for the offensive line has been healthy, listening to the interviews, and that position group is probably my key position group going into training camp, because I feel like if you get improvement from the center position, there's competition in that room now. I'm so glad that there's competition in that room with Matt Farniak and Tyler Lindstrom and these guys, to possibly Connor McGovern. It sounds like they're maybe open to working him at center to push Tyler Biadasz, to make him feel like he needs to be better. Competition is healthy, and I think we did him a disservice last year not having anybody else in that room that could push him off a cliff if he wasn't playing well. So hopefully we see improvement there from him. And last but not least, I mean, like, Zach Martin is over-reliable. Like, there's just not a lot that I worry about with him. It sounds like Connor McGovern is somewhat of a swing at guard too, because we did see him play well when Zach wasn't able to play in the Bucs game. So we'll see. This offensive line is full of unknowns to me, but I love the fact that in training camp we should be able to start checking off boxes of things that we know and we don't know. Which reminds me, do we know that Terrence Steele is gonna play as good as he did last year? We're gonna find out. On to the next position group. Before we go, before I jump to the next position group, I wanted to bring up Matt Waletzko and Josh Ball, because those are two guys that we were hoping could be left tackles or potential left tackles. The issue there is that I feel like, reading everything I've read, is Josh Ball is just not where he needs to be from an NFL level standpoint, especially as it pertains to power, to play that left tackle position. And I personally don't see that changing a whole bunch. And with Matt Waletzko, let's be fair here. This guy has some work to do. Yes, he has the athleticism. Yes, the footwork is there. The hand technique can be better. And the big boy strength. So left tackle is in limbo, honey. It's in limbo. But moving on, I want to talk about my quarterback. I want to talk about my quarterback and him being on the field. Talk about having a QB1 on the field really does for this team as a whole. And a lot of the conversation has come up with his mobility and things like that. And I actually tweeted that I was actually glad to hear that a lot of his choice not to run, or him not running last year, was partially because that's something that they decided on as a whole. To get him back to his point, he needs to be, obviously he dealt with the calf. Having him healthy and mobile is everything to this team. And I just think it's so odd that people have, they just quickly forget like that is a key part of Dak Prescott's game. It, to me, is part of the reason why he's even in the NFL, and it really drives his play. When Dak starts running a little bit, starts rolling to his left, rolling to his right, throwing on the run, making little dump off passes, things like that, that's when he's really cooking with gas. You can see him start seeing the field better. And don't get it twisted, I think that he has established himself as a pocket passer in this league. But to me, what makes him great is the dual threat ability. And it's not like a Lamar. It's not like, like a Josh Ball who's just going to truck you and stuff. No, but it is, this field is wide open. I'm going to take advantage of the coverage that you're giving me right now. And there were so many times last year that we saw wide open grass and we were screaming at the TVs for him to run. And so you're telling me that a defense not only has to worry about, they don't have to worry about our ability to run the ball at all, but they don't even have to worry about our quarterback running when there's grass out there. It's a problem. It was a problem. It was a problem for me. It was a problem pretty much for everybody else. And it damn sure was a problem to this offense, because if I'm planning for a Cowboys offense the week before, I'm just saying stop the run. All we have to do is stop them from running the ball. And after that, the game pretty much is won. So this offseason, hearing my quarterback say that he is going to be running more blesses me. But I also think that it's going to bless this somewhat young wide receiver core that we are all so on edge about and worried about with the absence of Amari Cooper. The weaknesses on paper right now for this team is the receiver core. A lot of people are still in a panic with the loss of Amari Cooper and then CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Wilson also. And for me, I am not so much in a panic because I really remember all of the film I watched on CeeDee Lamb, and it was a lot. It was a lot. And I remember how many people were excited about CeeDee Lamb. And my question for the people who are panicked about him being the number one is like, what are y'all watching? What are y'all watching? Like, I understand the idea that he has not went into a season being the guy, but the ability is 100% there. So what's the panic about? The number 2 receiver spot is a little in limbo, which I understand. A lot of people aren't familiar about James Washington. A lot of people don't really know who he is. I think he got a bad shake being in that Steelers organization with all of the depth in front of him, and then obviously being at the end of Ben Roethlisberger's career. The quality of quarterback play wasn't that great, and he obviously is dealing with some tinnitus or something like that. So again, it's another unknown at that number 2 position of what we're gonna get and what he's gonna look like. So I get some of the panic there with him, which is why I label it as a weakness. But it's a weakness because it's not conclusive right now. And then that brings me to Jaylen Tober. Okay, y'all, I'm really about to get in my feelings about Jaylen Tober because he is my favorite pick out of the draft for so many different reasons. And I think that he immediately makes this receiver core better because he has a level of versatility that you don't see from every receiver, especially early. And part of that is because this gentleman took the time to play his full college career. And that's not something you see all the time. Like these senior guys, these guys that go to the Senior Bowl, they're there for a reason, and you can typically tell why they're there because they understand the game a little bit more in depth. And that's what comes with experience. That's what comes with time. And with Jaylen, I know this about him because I listened to his interviews. And one of his first interviews, he was talking about the splits, the hashes, how the field looks different, getting his timing right. And so when I hear Dak took him under his wing, I got excited because to know that Dak, to some degree, handpicked him. He had the choices. He reached out to him. To know that this gentleman is already in his playbook to a point to where he's asking for more stuff than what they've already given him, and he's getting it. Hearing that Dak is throwing to him before he's out of his breaks, no surprise to me. Jaylen Tober is a route runner. Does he have some things he needs to shore up, especially the middle of the field work, which I think that's what they're doing right now because in college, and he talked about it, his senior year was the only time that they really start working the middle of the field. He predominantly was playing from the X, and he thrived there because he has sneaky good speed. He can get separation, things like that. But I really have a lot of faith in his ability, and not only his ability, but him being a student of the game and being very open and willing to learn. He's going to make an impact. He's also very QB friendly, and that's something that Dak Prescott actually said about him and James Washington in a couple of his interviews. Dak's been getting asked about Jaylen Tober a lot, and rightfully so, because people see that they're already connecting. And don't get it twisted, that's partially because Dak is a fantastic leader. He's probably in Jaylen's ear, but I'm not taking away his work because he works. He does. He works. He works very hard, and he's in his study book, and I'm so glad that we're hearing the reports of who he is and getting an idea of his character, because to me that eases a lot of my mind on the idea that this guy's gonna come in and make an impact early. I think James Washington is somewhat of a place filler. I do think he's gonna still be productive, but when you get a Michael Gallup back on this field with CeeDee Lamb hopefully being the number one I think he is, and Jaylen Tober work in the middle of the field, hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't. Listen, I trust my eyes. I trust my study. I don't want to hear it when this receiver core is good. because you guys have literally lost y'all's damn minds, acting like CeeDee Lamb is not capable, really totally disrespecting James Washington and his capabilities, and not factoring in at all his situation in the Steelers organization. It is so easy to say what a guy is what he is, but is that the same thing we're going to say about a Jayron Kearse? Because until he got here, he was a journeyman. I think it's very unfair for us to do what we do as fans or analysts or whatever. Training camp is intricate this year. I think we need to wait it out and see what the hell we get. Lastly, the last weakness I think on this team, can't believe I'm saying this. The last weakness I think on this team is really the coaching on the offensive side of the ball. I've been praying, fasting. I've been meditating. I've been trying to send Kellen Moore every mind message I could send him to get his life together and to really utilize the weapons around him that he has. There's been talk about Tyler. There's been so many T's. There's been talk about Tony Pollard possibly working as more in a receiver role, given the fact that we are down to starting caliber receivers. I'm not one of the people that thinks that they're just blowing smoke up people's asses. With the comparison to Ty Montgomery that Mike McCarthy made with using Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott being at the latter part of his career, I still think he's gonna get busy. He was pretty good pre-injury. I don't know what people be looking at, but Tony Pollard, Kellen Moore, we are begging you. We are begging Kellen Moore to utilize the talent on this offense. That's from the receivers on down, in the way that they deserve to be utilized. They cannot just be there for decoration, for sprinkles. Like at this point, Tony Pollard he sprinkles on a cupcake. And who likes sprinkles on cupcakes? One of the key weaknesses to me of this team, because I do think Kellen Moore he's developing. We're going through the growing pains with him, all of that stuff. But then some of it is inexcusable. Like there's just so many things. You have guys on this team who have big playability, who have yak ability. Lord, we are begging you to utilize them. Let them get busy. Like Kellen himself was a weakness to this team last year. Part of his stubbornness, part of some of his programming, from what people say. But a football coach sees what is wrong and fixes it. I'm gonna need you to fix it, Kellen. Those are my weaknesses as of right now with this team, what I think going into camp. I know a lot of people will argue that the linebacker core without Micah and the DT position as it stands, or the defensive line in the middle of it, the interior overall probably will be considered a weakness of this team. I personally just think that a lot of people very quickly forget how injured this defensive line was for the majority of the season. You were down 3 starters for almost the majority of this season. And not only were they 3 starters, they were 3 of the best run stoppers on your team. And we did see that once those guys came back, that things improved to an extent. I think the 49ers game was an anomaly that was ugly. The defense was on the field a lot more than what they needed to be anyway. But I do think that the run defense is going to improve. I don't look at it as a weakness. I understand the linebacker core could be an issue. I see how it could be deemed as a weakness. I do think they get some help there with how Dan Quinn uses the big nickel, and with the addition of a Marquise Bell paired with a Jayron Kearse. I think that's going to really help the run defense also. But the defensive line being healthy and having depth, to me, changes this from a weakness to a strength. But I'll talk about that later in my next video. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me. If you are at the end of the video, I'm literally sitting here crisscross applesauce talking to y'all, but I had to get this football off my chest. It's just too much. It's a lot of talking going on, you understand? So please comment, like, subscribe. I really want this to be conversational for us. I don't want to be argumentative. If you guys have any input, please comment, and I will comment back. Be looking for my strengths video in the next couple of days, and I will see you later. Be safe.